Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we've got holdouts, mystery illnesses, trade deadline, and where's the promotion? All this and more on this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season isn't over right now, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com, picking up a hat, shirt, jersey, season tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how have you been, my friend?
I am doing quite well. How about yourself?
I can't complain. It seems like the heat wave is still upon us, but I haven't melted yet.
Yeah, it's better than it was maybe a month ago. I'll say that. The last 2 days have been pretty nice.
Today was a little warm.
Yeah, it was, but yesterday was really nice.
Yeah, yesterday was great. Oh, so we've got a jam-packed show today. We've got Bears, we've got Cubs, we've got Sox, we've got Blackhawks, everything but the Bulls. Sorry, Bulls. I don't know where you want to start.
Well, I'll just throw a dart at the board and let's start with some hockey.
Oh, hockey. So I don't know, fans that are listening, if you've had your head stuck in the hockey sand for a year or so, but Corey Crawford has had a mystery illness that just has no explanation. And it's like an onion. Every time we hear something is like a new layer that you can peel back and you're still not finding the story. There's just so many layers to it. What do you think's going on, Alex? I mean, I have some thoughts, but I just want to hear like what the heck is going on. Not necessarily about the malady per se, but just the situation with the team, with the player in general.
The longer this goes on, the more I think there's something more personal and more serious going on here. Because the refusal to tell us what is really going on after all this time, it makes you think. I'm not going to make any assumptions here. One of my theories is, and again, these are just theories. These are not me saying this is what it is. And when I mean assumptions, I mean I'm declaring I know what this is because I don't. One of the things I think is he's got concussion problems. And they're just not sure, and he's not sure how he is right now physically with those concussion problems. Because look, we know how serious concussions are, especially in this day and age. We know how serious they are. We know that they could be career-ending and life-threatening. Maybe that's one of the issues. The other one, I'm not saying this is it. Again, please don't quote me on this. And I don't want to make a misjudgment of this guy. But the stories we've heard, the speculations we've heard about him having some personal battles with substances, it does sometimes cross my mind. Maybe it's not the sole reason. Maybe it's not even a serious thing anymore. But maybe it was an issue and things on top of it have made it worse. I really don't know. It's just the fact that this is being so dragged out with no little explanation it naturally makes you fear worse and worse as time goes on, because we've heard at the Hawks convention, he said, I'm not 100%. I plan to play. I do plan to play, but I'm not 100%. We still don't know what the heck that means.
Here's where my confusion comes in. Like, I get we don't know what the illness is. I get that there's vagueness. But where my confusion is that when you hear Quenneville talk about it, when you hear Bowman talk about it, they're saying, we're getting reports. We're hearing. Does that sound like something that someone's talking to the direct player would say? Like, if something was wrong with you and you were like, I can't record, something's going on, I wouldn't say there's reports that Alex is not going to be able to make it. I would say, oh, Alex can't make it. They're saying reports. And then when Crawford is talking at the fan convention, it's what he's saying isn't totally meshing with what Bowman and Quenneville are saying. So who is Bowman talking to? Who is Quenneville talking to? Who is Crawford talking to? Are they talking to each other? Are they reaching out to the player? Is the player not answering the phone? What's the deal? It's just a mystery. You know, if it was mystery illness and Corey Crawford was, you know, somewhere to be found regularly saying, I'm working on whatever the issue is, and they had joint press conferences, or the GM and the coach were like, I talked to him yesterday, I talked to his doctor. All of those things, even if I don't know what's going on, make me have a better understanding of the assessment of the situation. What we have is a lot of people just throwing vagueness out there, and then sometimes backtracking on their vagueness, sometimes putting different vagueness out there. What is the deal? I don't understand. I don't even understand what the communication lines are.
I mean, that's a good point. That is a good point. Is he talking through a representative? Are they not really speaking to each other? Now, at least it did clear some people's minds to see him at the convention. Maybe not clear a lot, but if he wasn't at the convention, there would be even more speculation and more concern of what's going on. Like, I almost rather have him say, I'm not 100%, than having Corey Crawford not being there and like having Quenneville or Bowman or whoever saying, yeah, he's not really 100%. He's not here. He didn't come here. That would be even more worrisome. At least he was there to tell us, even though we didn't really know what the real assessment is. Because when he says, well, I'm not 100%, it's okay. Are you 50%? Are you not close? Are you almost there? We don't really know, but at least we heard it from him. We haven't heard much from him during this whole thing. So at least there was that. But yeah, you're right. A lot of the stuff the reports say, it's very odd. And I don't really have an answer for that. I don't know if there's a beef going on and they're not talking. I don't know. If there's some sort of beef, then that would tell me there's some sort of personal things going on here on top of everything.
It's so mind-boggling. I don't understand it. I mean, when there was the mystery illness with Marian Hossa, but that suddenly came to light fairly quickly. It was
that was resolved really fast.
It went from like retire, I'm gonna sort of retire, to what's going on, to mystery illness, to all right, it's the gunk. All right, we figured that out. But internet detectives are not doing such a good job of what's going on with Corey Crawford. Hell, I mean, Waldo books stop selling. You could start selling Where's Corey Crawford books, because the guy, for the most part, has been MIA. When was the last time anybody saw him? I mean, maybe not in person, but whether it been newscast or what, there was reports of somebody seeing him before the Blackhawk convention.
Yeah, I don't really remember the last time he talked to the media. He may have last year. I know he was doing on-ice activities at some point. He may have talked to them then. I just really can't remember him coming out and talking to the public before the Blackhawks convention, really after his second stint on the long-term IR. Not long. Did they technically put him on long-term IR, or was it just last year? Because I don't think they did. But he was.
I don't think they did because they would have gotten salary cap relief from him.
Right. And there was also speculation that he may come back, and it's just, we don't know when he's going to be back. We don't know when he's going to be back. Okay, he's not going to be back because there's like 3 weeks left and they're out of the thing. So yeah, I mean, he was on the disabled list or whatever you want to call it, and you didn't really hear much. You had people ask Quenneville or Bowman, and it was the same. I don't know. He's hope to have him back. We'll see. You never got a clear answer, and you didn't hear much from Crawford.
Yeah, it's just so confusing, and it's like a textbook example of how not to be a media piece. Like, it is like, if it's something where, hey, this is a personal matter, Corey doesn't really want to discuss it, that there's plenty of better ways to go about handling this than the vagueness and the third person talking and the unclear lines of communication and the disappearance of Crawford. And I'm even hearing from multiple sources that I trust that he's not even seeing the team doctors. He's seeing his own private doctors, and so the team doctors aren't even fully on board with what the hell's going on. So it's a weird situation. And given the fact of Crawford's age, what are the odds that he never plays again?
That thought has crossed my mind. It really has crossed my mind. And look, this isn't just some guy on the fourth line. This isn't some third string defenseman. This is arguably a top 5 important player on your team. Heck, you could argue top 3 right now. You look back the past few years, even just last year, he was the MVP of the team when he was healthy. He was winning games for that team. They were giving up a ton of shots. He'd keep them in the game, and then they'd score a goal and they'd win. He was the MVP last year before he got hurt. And the year before, he was key to winning all those games before the playoffs. He's a top 3 important guy on your team right now. And this is what makes it a lot more serious. And Hossa was an important player too when he went down, but again, that was all cleared up right away. There was really no funny business. He had the gunk. He's not playing anymore. He can't play anymore through that pain, and you understand that. We just want to know what the hell's going on. If he's got issues with injury or whatever, we'd at least rather know about it. I just want to know what the heck is going on. If we know what's going on, if they know what's going on, then they can make the appropriate moves. I mean, you got Cam Ward to back him up right now, but are you really going to trust Cam Ward to be a starter these days? With another AHL guy backing him up? You can't do that. We need to know what's going on. If he is not going to be playing for a while, then the Hawks would probably have to go out and get somebody else. We just want to know what's going on. And I'm not necessarily blaming Crawford here because we don't know what the situation is, but we just got to know what's going on.
Yeah, it's like if there really is a real possibility that Corey Crawford doesn't play a good chunk of the season or doesn't play at all, and the move that the Blackhawks made was Cam Ward, that's the move they made. That's bad. That's real bad. And
see, to me, them making that move had them expecting Corey Crawford back.
Yeah, that's what I expected too. But now I'm just getting discouraging news. And then you got to think about it too. Is all right. Let's say the Blackhawks did have the opportunity to get a legitimate starting goalie. So they're going to pay him probably $5 million or so a year to get a legitimate starting goalie, $6 million. So suddenly, with your salary cap, you've got tied up in goalies like $12 million, and then another however $1 million you have in 2 washed up defensemen. That's bad news. That's just tear it down and start over again bad news.
Yeah, the importance of Corey Crawford cannot be said enough here. And it'd be a real shame if he couldn't play again. And if it's because of injury or personal problem, whatever it is, if he couldn't play again, it would really stink. And again, I can't be mad at Crawford. He's having legitimate issues here with whatever it is. You know, his life comes first. His personal life comes first. But it's just not a good situation to be in right now because you have to rely so heavily on him. It's not an easy fix. It's not. I mean, look, if it's concussion issues, then sometimes you just got to stop. But if he's not feeling 100%, but he says he's going to play, that raises your eyes about a few other things. It's like, okay, what if it's the vertigo, or what if it's something else physically wrong with him? I don't know how else to assess that.
I don't either. And it's, at this point, it's all speculation. It's all rumor. Training camp is, what, a month and a half away?
Yeah, something like that.
So we'll see. I mean, I really doubt you're going to see him early in training camp. So we're looking at 2 months before we probably have definitive news of what we're going to see of Corey Crawford, or at least a better, clearer picture of what we're going to see.
Right. We just want some clarity at the end of the day. We want to know what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, are we going to be watching a dog turd sandwich, or are we going to watch a team that can actually win some games? And what happens with Crawford is probably going to be a big sign of which one you're going to watch.
You know what's interesting? The Blackhawks convention was this past weekend, and I saw some people who were going to the convention, whether it was friends or family. They were posting pictures of the Blackhawks convention on Twitter, Facebook, yada yada. And of course, people still go, people still like it, but it felt like this year there was almost no hype in it. Remember those Blackhawks conventions right after they won a Stanley Cup? Like, everyone was so hyped about it. Now, this year, to me, maybe it's just because I didn't go, I wasn't anywhere near it, but it was just kind of like, oh yeah, the Hawks convention. It's this weekend. I just feel like right now, there's a lot of pessimism from the fans for the team going forward. There's a lot of concerns, and I recently did that poll of what people expected, and I think overall the fan base just isn't feeling too good about where the team is going right now. And this year, like we've said on this show many other times, is probably going to be the deciding factor. If Corey Crawford isn't healthy this year, then that could probably tell you he's not going to play again. So that's a thing gone for the future. If they're not good, then what would expect this core to get any better as they age next year after not being good last year for the most part? So this year, it's just kind of like, well, we're going in, we're going to see how this goes, and I'm not feeling so great about it. That's kind of the vibe I've been getting.
Well, I mean, why should Blackhawks fans be more excited about this season? What reason is there to get hyped about the Blackhawks convention? It's not like the cup is there. It's not like it's even, it's several years removed. You had a real down season last year. There's so many question marks about your goalie, and I don't know if anybody even expected him to be there. You didn't address any of your giant gaping holes from last year. And, when they asked Quenneville about the issues going forward, he blamed a lot of it on, we carried 8 defensemen. That was probably one too many. We should have only carried 7. That's why they sucked, is you had too many players and they couldn't get into a rhythm because they didn't get consistent playing time. Okay. Yeah, Q, that's it. You carried too many defensemen, and that's why you sucked.
There were many reasons, and I don't think that was the reason. Just my opinion.
No, it's bad when you're longing for the days of Michael Roosevelt. That was an exaggeration.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. But yeah, like you said, there's not a whole lot to be like, well, we're coming off a bad season. We're not really. Well, okay, so I've said this before, I'll say it again. If a fully healthy Blackhawks team is on the ice and they perform to pretty much their career numbers offensively, and if Corey Crawford is back and playing like Corey Crawford and the defense is serviceable, that I think is still a team that makes the playoffs. Do I think they go on a big run? For the first time in a long time, I'm really kind of thinking no. I'm not completely ruling it out, but every year since 2009, even up to last year, going to the season, I thought last year, I'm like, okay, let's put that sweep behind us. Let's play a little better defense this year. We made some improvements. This team's good enough to go on a run. This year, I think a fully healthy team can make the playoffs. I don't see this team getting past Winnipeg or the Predators or some of those teams that are in the West right now. Just on paper. I don't see a bad team, but when you have a lot of aging guys and some that are just, kind of middle of the road, a few good young kids though, but you still got Patrick Kane. Overall though, to me, it's a good team, but it's not extraordinary. And I don't know if that's going to be enough to go on a long run.
Nope, it is not. There's no chance the Blackhawks win a Stanley Cup this year. And what's the best they could do? I think it's the scenario you described, is they make the playoffs. Maybe they squeak out a first round win, but that's about it. I mean, I love the Blackhawks, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but really, they have maybe the next wave of young players will bolster this team and make them a viable threat to win the cup. But as it stands right now is you've got gaping holes on the defense. Who knows what's going on with your goalie? And if he can't play, you've got washed up and never has been or never was and over the hills to be goalies. And who knows what you're going to do on your top two lines.
Yeah, there are a few things I'm a bit more confident in. I think Saad will have a bounce back year. I think Taze can have a decent bounce back year. Taze is another guy where I look at him and say, he may be physically okay. And it's not like he played bad last year. He still scored 20 goals. He had some tough luck. I don't think he was bad at all last year. I just can't help but wonder if, he's had some head trauma himself while playing hockey. And I can't help but wonder if that's taken a spring out of his step or two. And even if he's in great shape, like muscle-wise, when you get concussions, that's very damaging. So I still think Taze will be a good, solid player, but you saw his prime years from like 09 to 13. I don't know if you're going to see those types of numbers again. So that's going to be a big question mark right there.
I mean, it's a really good point. It's a tough road to travel, and you're tied up with him for a number of years, and Kane for a number of years, and Seabrook for a number of years, and Keith for a number of years, and it just makes you want to break down into tears sometimes.
Well, it's just like, what makes you break down into tears is you saw how good this team once was. You saw how good that core once was. You saw all the success they had, and looking at the scenario that it really could just be over, it's kind of stinks.
Yeah, I mean, the only good part about it is tickets will be a lot easier to get.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I still think they'll draw really good crowds, but you're definitely right.
Well, do you have any more Blackhawks you want to talk?
No, not really. It's, every summer I always have looked forward to the Blackhawks. I'm like, all right, almost soon the Blackhawks, almost soon the Blackhawks. And I want hockey season back, and I always look forward to Blackhawks season no matter what, but it's just like, well, here it comes. We'll see how it goes. This is the lowest I felt about the Blackhawks really since before they were contenders. It's kind of a bummer. But maybe they proved me wrong. Because, I will admit this. I wasn't really high on the Hawks going into 2013. I was ecstatic when the lockout ended. I was so excited to watch hockey again. And I was excited to watch the Blackhawks again. But I thought, after 2012, 2011, they'll probably, make the playoffs and lose in the first or second round, and it'll be all over again. And then they won the Stanley Cup. So, hey, maybe they'll surprise us. Because I was really confident last year that they were going to bounce back. Like, I really was. And that didn't happen. Sometimes the opposite of what I think happens.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Reverse jinx.
Reverse jinx. That's it. So where do you want to move to? We've got Sox, we got Cubs, we got Bears.
Okay, let's just peel this Band-Aid off with the Bears stuff. It's unfortunate, the situation that we're in right now, but, I don't know what else to say about it, but, well, actually, I do have a few more things to say about it, but it sucks that everything else is going so well in camp, but there's this one little blip on the radar.
Yeah, the little blip is called every single draft pick from the last NFL draft is signed except for one. Roquan Smith of the Chicago Bears.
Yep. Still, I really thought this deal was going to be done like a week ago. I thought it was going to be done over the weekend. I kept telling myself, it'll get done. But it's getting to the point where we're like, okay, come on.
Well, the Bears have had a great track record of getting their draft picks signed and into camp early, usually being one of the first teams completely to sign all of their draft picks. That's been our experience probably over the last 10 years or more. And there was no reason to not expect this, especially considering that right now in this collective bargaining is players that are drafted are slotted at a salary. So the salary is pretty much a moot point. It's offset language. It's other clauses in there. It's not salary. Salary has been typically the big holdup in things. But that's not the case here. So I was right there in the same camp with you. Is all right, Roquan Smith. I'm not worried. He's just missing the first couple practices. The Bears started practices early because they're in the Hall of Fame game. Not worried. Then I start hearing rumblings over the last several days to now things are coming to a head that, oh yeah, hey, there is a concern. And there is a pretty big concern.
I was reading some of the stuff on it earlier, and one person was talking about this on Twitter. I can't remember who it was, but then they talked about it on 670 The Score this morning when I was driving to work. They were talking about one of the clauses for Bears' first round rookie contracts, and that there was a section in there saying that guaranteed money could be void if they make remarks that negatively put the team in a negative light. Let's say that. Put the team in a negative light. Don't reflect the team in a good way, or have negative comments just in general about the team. I don't know if you knew about that. And people kind of started bringing that up about certain clauses that the Bears have.
I haven't heard those clauses. The clause I'm hearing is so with the new NFL rule about head first collisions, they can suspend you, and and Roquan Smith's side, his agents and representatives, they want a clause in there saying if he's suspended for aggressive football play, we want you to put in writing that you're not going to take away his money. And the Bears are saying, well, we're not going to do that, but we'll just give you a verbal assurance. And they're like, okay, well, if you're willing to give us a verbal assurance, write it down, put it in the contract. And the Bears are taking drawing a line in the sand, and Roquan Smith's 8 representatives are drawing a line in the sand. And both of them are just butting their heads about this. And what's crazy is at least 3 other players got the same wording in their contract. I don't know what the Bears' holdup is.
Right. You pretty much summed it up perfectly. The one clause I was talking about, I just pointed out because I found it kind of weird. And it also kind of explains a lot. It's kind of obvious. You know, there's been so much BS coming from the Bears in terms of media interviews and whatever, a lot of stuff you could see through. So I thought that was interesting. But the thing that you brought up, I mean, yeah, that's the main issue. It sounds like here. I don't know if there's any other underlying but you know, that's an issue that has me saying, Bears, this is your first round pick. This was a pick that most NFL people were saying was a smart and productive pick. If you really want to be taken seriously here, if you really want to have good things reflected upon you, don't have it in, BS sayings from your team. Have it by signing all your players that you need to win and win.
Yeah, it's the crappy part is there's been a lot of from externally from people outside of Chicago and from Chicago Bears themselves, a lot of negative things said about the Bears, from being inept, from being cheap, to run by clowns, whatever the case may be. Whether they're warranted or not, they exist. And this is doing nothing, absolutely nothing, but fueling that fire. And the thing is it puts both sides in a no-win situation. So I'm hearing that this could be a long, drawn-out process, sort of like Joey Bosa, where it goes up to the cusp of the season. And here's what happens if that happens and the player doesn't play as well as you wanted, whether it be from not being up to speed because they didn't have training camp or they get injured, then suddenly it's because the player didn't go to camp, and then that's another dumb decision by the Bears. What good happens from this? And if he ends up playing really well, everyone just sort of forgets about the nonsense. So the Bears don't get any credit for any of this. All that they do is risk looking stupid. And over what? What are you going to take away from this guy if he gets a suspension for a hit? What's it going to be, like $1 million? Hell, let's say $2 million. $2 million to a multi-billion-dollar franchise? Come on. And people are going to be like, well,
it's ridiculous.
People are going to be like, well, the player just needs to get to camp. You know what? This is a kid that this is his one chance in a lifetime to make money. And we're talking about a kid he's not earning any money right now. He has no income. And you're going to say, well, it's okay. Don't worry. Risk losing $1 to $2 million. Okay. I mean, that's stupid. Give the player this clause and get him into camp and get him ready to go. This is just petty silliness from the Bears, and it makes Ryan Pace look bad.
It's so infuriating because I just want to say, you want to see why you guys have been god awful? Look at yourselves. Look at this situation. Shouldn't your first priority be winning goddamn football games? come on. This just drives me crazy. The more you talk about it, the more I read about it on Twitter, the more it angers me. And, it's kind of funny because early on, it was a back and forth opinion between the fans and writers. People were kind of pointing the finger at Roquan Smith's camp. Then they were pointing at the Bears. And they were pointing at Roquan Smith. It was kind of like, well, why doesn't he sign? Well, why don't the Bears sign? It was kind of back and forth, but now you realize what's going on, and it's just silliness from the Bears. It's pure silliness. And
to fuel the fire that the Bears are run by nincompoops is that it was going back and forth of whose fault it was. I fully agree with that because that's what happened in the media. And the Bears are the ones that leaked the information about why he wasn't signing. And suddenly, once the Bears leaked it, everyone went, oh, that's the situation? Shame on you, Bears. So the Bears just opened the door and said, hey, look, we're being dumb. All right, thanks. Everybody knows.
Oh, but we don't want to say anything that's going to reflect negatively on us. Oh.
And I'm going to be honest here, is there's times where I bite my tongue a little bit about Bears being dumb because A, I can be a homerish with the Bears, and B,
me too,
is that there's been a period where the Bears have been very good to this show, and that time has since ceased, and they don't want to acknowledge we're alive. Well, guess what? Now I just don't have to care, because if you're not going to recognize us, then we're going to say it. Ryan Pace is a dumb shit if he doesn't just concede here, get Roquan Smith into camp, and do what he needs to do. They've spent so much money on offense, and they really haven't done anything to overhaul the defense. And granted, it was a very good defense last year, but they still have gaping holes. Who's going to be that other edge rusher? Is it going to be sixth rounder Kylie Fitz? Is it going to be Sam Acho? Who is it going to be? It's going to be Lynch. And then suddenly you're like, all right, well, we got middle linebacker settled, because even if Trevathan gets hurt, we got Nick Kwiatkowski, and then we've got Roquan Smith. Awesome. Well, you know what? All you had to do was give this guy the language that at least 3 other teams have been verified that have given to the players, and who knows however many others. And you could have your middle linebacker in there, and it would be all roses. No one would be talking bad about the Bears. And instead, you just, well, we can't look too good. Let's make a dumb shit decision, kind of like signing Mike Glennon.
I just think it's a real shame that this whole thing is going on during all this optimism. Because you look at everything else that's going on in camp. You're seeing these highlights of Mitch Trubisky throwing darts to Anthony Miller and Adam Shaheen. You're seeing everything else look great. You see the coaching staff all together. You see the other work that Ryan Pace did in the offseason. It was all good stuff. But we can't have anything just completely go right. There has to be something going on. And here it is. Something's going on. And look, if they just sign the kid, he comes in, plays well, I'll forget all about this. I will. I'll move past it. But until they do, I'm going to be frustrated at it. I think that's fair.
I think it's completely fair. It's absolutely fair. And, you know, the Bears, and I'm not even going to say the Bears. I'm going to say Ryan Pace, this is all on him. This is absolutely all on him. He has the easy decision of saying, all right, I'm looking stupid. This is the right thing to do. We need to get our draft pick, who a lot of people are saying is going to be a perennial Pro Bowler. We got to get him in camp and get that going. Oh, all I have to do is put a clause in there that we're not going to rip him off. You know, they give him verbal assurance. They're like, well, we didn't do it to Danny Trevathan when he got suspended. But guess what? If Roquan Smith is as good as as he's been billed and as good as the tape is showing, he could be there longer than Ryan Pace.
He's their first round pick, for goodness sake.
He could easily be there longer than Ryan Pace. And what if the next general manager does not have the same verbal assurance? If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Verbal assurances are absolutely nothing.
No, they really aren't.
If a verbal assurance was so awesome and so binding, they would just write it down.
Yeah. What's also really frustrating about this whole thing is that Ryan Pace has done so many good things recently, even though the teams haven't been good. He's cleared out the bad. He's made some good draft choices, even though some of the free agents haven't worked out, but the draft choices have looked good. You're seeing the optimism here. It's just this one thing is more than one little thing. It's a lot of thing. Let's put it that way. It's like, he's a smart guy. He talks a good talk. You don't hear him very much, but I've liked his last few press conferences when they let go of Fox and then they brought on Matt Nagy. It's like you got a lot of faith in the guy, and I still do. But this whole thing is just a big gray cloud over what we hope is building a sunny paradise of optimism. It's just frustrating,
I agree. I'm right there with you. But switching gears a little bit with the Bears, talking about our the other side of the ball, our quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. What is a fair expectation for Mitchell Trubisky this year?
I'd say good. I'm not saying elite. I'm saying good. I expect him to be good. And when I say good, I mean productive. Move the ball down the field, make some athletic plays behind the line. You're going to make some mistakes. I mean, this is really your first time going all out in a season. So there's going to be some mistakes. He's almost somewhat still a rookie in my eyes just because he didn't get to do much last year. So I think the expectations are productive/good. I think it's a little unfair for him to be elite in his first year. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Are there any stats that you would think we could measure him by that are fair? And is a fair assessment saying, will he have a better quarterback rating than Jay Cutler? At the highest Jay Cutler QB rating that he ever had in a regular season for the Bears. Is that number a fair assessment for expectation for Mitch Trubisky?
Are we talking just this coming year again?
Yeah, just this year.
Well, first let me pull up his stats, Jay Cutler. I think if you just kind of if you take away like the metrics and you do the kind of the raw eye, I think he's capable of doing what Jay Cutler did, let's say, kind of like a 2012-ish time, 2013, somewhere along there. Because I think you'll see him get some yards. I think if everything goes well for Trubisky, I could see close to maybe 4,000-ish yards if he's healthy and plays every game. I think 4,000 yards is reasonable. In terms of touchdowns, I think 25 is reasonable. Maybe a little less, maybe 20 to 25, somewhere in between there. I think that's reasonable. That's kind of what Jay Cutler did in his prime here. The interceptions, see, that's one where I say if he throws a lot of interceptions, that's going to be kind of a learning experience. Because, again, I kind of called him a rookie somewhat going into the season. I still kind of stand by that. So in terms of Jay Cutler, I think you'll see similar numbers in yards and touchdowns. Maybe a little better. You'll see some solid rushing yards. I think that's fair enough, right? I think he's going to be a really good quarterback, but in his first year, I think productive numbers are the reasonable. I don't think he's going to be bad. Let's say that. I don't think he's going to be bad. I don't think he's going to be Tom Brady good. So that's pretty much what I got to say there.
Here's Jay Cutler's quarterback ratings as a Chicago Bear. His first year, 76.8. Second year, 86.3. 85.7. 81.3. 89.2. 88.6. 92.3. And 78.1.
You know, it's funny. His highest quarterback rating was 2015. You actually had to give Jay Cutler a lot of credit in 2015 because he had very little to work with, but he actually had a pretty good year that year.
He did have a decent year.
In his terms. In his terms.
Let's see. But if Mitch Trubisky is able to put up 4,000 yards, that would be the single best passing season in Chicago Bears history.
I know that ain't saying much.
No,
but
it's really
it's
the best.
You see 4,000-yard passers all the time, but for the Bears standards,
the Bears. Do you know what the Bears passing single season most yards passing is, and who holds it?
Is it Sid Luckman?
Surprisingly, no.
Is it Kyle Orton?
No.
Give me two more guesses. Jim Harbaugh.
No.
Okay, last one. It can't be Cade McNown. There's no way.
Eric Kramer. 1995. 3,838. Second all time is Jay Cutler. 2014.
Yeah, 3,800. Wow.
So,
and you know, it's like I said, you see quarterbacks throw for 4,000 plus yards every year. You see it. I mean, Alex Smith threw for over 4,000 yards. I think Mitch Trubisky can rack up some yards here. I think he'll throw a lot more interceptions than some of the elite quarterbacks. I think that he may not get as many touchdowns, but with the talent he has around him, I think near or around 4,000 yards is reasonable. I mean, is that maybe too much?
Well, let's do a quarter. Let me see. What were the leaders last year?
It was Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Matthew Stafford, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, Alex Smith. Those are all the guys who had 4,000 or more. Keep in mind, Aaron Rodgers was hurt a lot of the season. Russell Wilson just missed the bar. He was 3,983, and at 3,800 was Jared Goff.
I think 3,600 is a fair number for him.
Okay.
That puts you out of the top 10, but still in the top 15. That's
fair.
QB rating though, is if you're to get a better QB rating than Jay Cutler, is let's just say if you can get a 90 QB rating, that's putting you around the same as like top 10 to 15 passer.
I mean, I'd take it. If you look at last year, the guys that were right around 90, with 89.2, Tyrod Taylor, And then Matt Ryan, 91.4. Jameis Winston, 92.2. So those are really your guys around 90 last year. And then the touchdowns, I said 20, 25. You're looking there. You're looking at Matt Ryan, Blake Bortles, Cam Newton, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Case Keenum, Drew Brees, Andy Dalton, Alex Smith.
Yeah, I think a 90 passer rating, 3,600 yards would, and touchdown to interception ratio of, I don't know, if you could do 2-1, it would be fantastic.
See, the reason why I was kind of looking at Mitchell Trubisky throwing for nearly or around 4,000 yards is that he has explosive weapons in both Tariq Cohen and Taylor Gabriel. And the fact that you have those guys in addition to threats downfield, I think you're going to see a lot of games where he racks up a lot of yards. I really do. Even if the passing touchdowns aren't near the top, I just see him getting a lot of, big yard games. And I wouldn't have said that last year because he didn't have the weapons and he didn't have the coaching. I think with Matt Nagy and his offensive mind and the weapons he has around him, that could rack you up a lot of yards. So that's kind of where I'm justifying that. Everything else with you, I agree pretty much to a T.
And, you're hearing some rumblings of people saying, well, he's thrown a lot of interceptions in practices. And I'm not trying to dismiss it saying, oh, it's not a big deal. Interceptions are always a big deal. But it's kind of like at bats or pitching in a preseason game or a spring training game, where even if you give up a lot of runs or hits, it's not indicative of what the season's going to be like. You'd be like, well, I'm working on a curveball. I'm trying out some things or changing my little delivery a little bit and seeing how that works. Is Mitch Trubisky could very well be like, well, you know what? I spent all last season with the least innovative offense in history. And I'm trying to test out is what my limitations are within this offense, is what kind of throws can I do to beat an NFL cornerback or a safety? If that's the case, I'm not so worried about it. It's all going to what does it look like in games? If he starts throwing interceptions in preseason games, I'm going to say, all right, I'm a little nervous about the interceptions in practice. But if he doesn't throw any interceptions in the game, in the preseason games, then I'm going to be like, okay, not worried about it. It's what he's going to do when it's games and when games count. I remember a time when there was like 10 or 12 practices in a row where Jay Cutler didn't throw a single interception. And every beat writer was like, oh, Jay Cutler hasn't thrown an interception in weeks.
Oh, I remember that.
And he threw 2 interceptions in the first game of that season.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's no correlation there. I just, you're right. He's played 12 NFL games and like 12 college games. And he's on his second offensive coordinator and his second system, as a pro in his second year. I'm not going to say, no expectations of him because he was a second overall pick. I want expectations, but I'm not going to hold him to the same standards as I'm going to hold Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to hold him to those same expectations. I'm going to hold him to expectations similar to, what's his face in Oakland,
Derek Carr.
Or Derek Carr. Yeah. I'll have him similar expectations there. I'll have similar expectations of, a Case Keenum. I'll have similar expectations of, that next tier down of quarterbacks that are good, but not Hall of Fame. I think those are fair expectations. Is we expect really good things from him, but it's unfair to compare him to a Hall of Famer. at this point. Really unfair.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that we got to temper the expectations a little bit, but also expect some improvement here. And you know what? Some of that improvement may not come until midseason. It may take a few games. We'll see. I mean, right now, they're trying to develop him while really trying to win games as well. So there's probably going to be a little bit of a learning curve, even though the ceiling is really high. What also is interesting about the whole interceptions in practice thing is when I was driving home from work the other day, Eddie Jackson was being interviewed on 670 The Score, and he was saying, nobody cheers the defense when they make a big play. Sometimes that's just our defenders making a really good play. So, again, you don't want to see your quarterback throwing a ton of interceptions, but maybe you also have to give a little credit to some of our defenders that are intercepting him. He made that point.
That's another true thing. If your second year quarterback, here's the thing is we're Chicago fans, Chicago media. If Mitch Trubisky is burning the defense left and right, we're not going to be like, oh, he's a superstar. We're going to be like, this defense really sucks.
This defense can't stop nothing.
These guys can't tackle. If Ditka was there, they'd be tackling machines.
That Ditka had them picking up the ball off the ground and taking it back. They can't even punch the ball out.
My favorite is that the new breed of fans is, well, when Lovey was here, like, oh my God, do you remember the last years of Lovey? Nobody could wait for him everyone was excited for him to get out. It wasn't that he was bad coaching. It was the expectations the results just leveled off, and there was no improvement, no decline. They were okay, and everyone got tired of it. And now people are making him out to be, well, when Lovey was here, we got all kinds of punching the ball. We held the record for most times punching the ball.
Cover Tampa 2 is also not something that really works as well anymore. So
how's it work? Yeah, how did it work down in Tampa? How does it working at U of I?
To be fair, he doesn't have Jack to work with at U of I, but yeah, I mean, I get your point.
So I'm not hating on Lovey. There was time to go, but there's people that are suddenly people are just waxing nostalgic about everything that's not right now. And man, it drives me crazy. Chicago fans love to wax nostalgic.
Yeah, and it is kind of weird to think about that Lovey is technically like the third most successful coach in franchise history. But yeah, when he was gone, I'm like, okay, we needed to move on. They were stuck at, we're going to have a good season, but we're not making the playoffs, or we're not, or we're barely making the playoffs, not going anywhere, or, they made the Super Bowl, but how many times did they lose out on the playoffs, like on the last day or the second to last week, or one bad loss cost them, and they ended the season 10-6, not going to the playoffs, or 8-8, not going to the playoffs. They were okay, like you said, but not good enough to go anywhere.
Yeah, just, have better aspirations. Oh, your team made it to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman as your quarterback, and then other than the opening drive, stunk it up. Okay, yeah, something to be real proud of.
And that was over 10 years ago. I mean, you got to credit Lovey for his defense. It was really good. It got him several playoff spots, but that was a long time ago. I mean, I got a question for you. This is related to Lovey, but unrelated to the Bears now and everything we've been talking about. And I talk about this a lot. If you look back at the 2010 team that made it within one win of the Super Bowl, how would you sum that team up? The 2010 team. They were one win away from the Super Bowl, lost to the Packers in the NFC Championship, that team.
Overrated?
That's what a lot of people would say.
they were not nearly as good as the Packers. And, a lot of people will bash Jay Cutler. The guy was, you could hate on Jay Cutler a lot. The guy was real tough, and he didn't make that game. And it wasn't his fault they lost, his injury, because he got really injured. The Bears weren't as good.
Yeah, I mean, outside the Packers making that late surge, the NFC North was pretty bad. They beat up on a lot of bad teams. I'd argue that the 2011 team was better than the year before. I thought that was a better team, but everybody got hurt. If that team would have stayed healthy, they would have been in the playoffs and they could have made a run. That team was better than the year before everybody got hurt. Now, I will always say this. Jay Cutler, in no sense of the word, was trying to slack off in the NFC Championship. He was really hurt. I've had the same injury he has. You can barely walk. I don't think that any quarterback in their right mind, even Jay Cutler, who has taken a lot of crap in terms of being beaten like hell on the field because they didn't have an offensive line, he would not just pass up trying to help his team get to the Super Bowl and just say, no, I don't want to. He wouldn't do that. I'm sick of that narrative.
My favorite of the ridiculous talking heads that were hating on Jay Cutler after that game was Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb was talking bad about Jay Cutler not being able to finish that game. And this is the same Donovan McNabb that got called out by Terrell Owens in the Super Bowl for being too fat and out of shape to finish the game.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Taking his helmet off and huffing and puffing and throwing up because he was so out of shape. And so that was just you being fat and lazy. This guy got injured.
He couldn't walk. He literally could not walk. You saw him on the exercise bike on the side. He couldn't even pedal. I mean, you almost had Caleb Haney bring you back, but, that didn't happen. Okay, here's one thing I will argue, though. I get it. That team was probably overrated. But you know what? If Cutler was healthy, and if they would have beaten the Packers, I think they would have beaten the Steelers in the Super Bowl. I think that they could have totally fluked out that season and gotten a Super Bowl. I truly believe that.
You mean pulled the Eli Giants?
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding. I legit think if they would have gotten to the Super Bowl with Jay Cutler, they would have won.
The world may never know.
It's frustrating. Because Rodgers really wasn't dominant in that NFC Championship game. They may have lost. They may have been down the whole time, but they were never really out of that game. That's what's frustrating about it.
It was such a frustrating game to watch, though.
It was one of the most frustrating games to watch.
I think I invented new swear words.
I'm pretty sure I threw one of our love seats at the TV.
But I don't know if you saw, the Bears released their first depth chart for the 2018 season.
I have not seen this.
So not a ton of surprises, but I don't know, a few in there. Quarterback, no surprises there. Mitch Trubisky, quarterback 1, Chase Daniel 2, Tyler Bray 3. Your wide receivers, Allen Robinson is starter at one position, and he's ahead of Kevin White, Javon Wims, Marlon Brown, Tanner Gentry, and DeMarcus Ayers. The second wide receiver spot is Taylor Gabriel, followed by Anthony Miller, Josh Bellamy, Benny Fowler, Garrett Johnson, and Malachi Jones. Running backs, Jordan Howard 1, Tariq Cohen, Benny Cunningham, Taquan Mizell, and Ryan Nall. The starting offensive line is Charles Leno at left tackle, left guard Eric Kush, center Cody Whitehair, right guard Kyle Long, right tackle Bobby Massey. The second unit is left tackle Bradley Sowell, James Daniels at left guard, Hronis Grasu at center, Earl Watford at right guard, and Rashad Coward at right tackle. The tight ends are listed as Trey Burton 1, Deion Sims 2, Adam Shaheen 3, Ben Broniker, Daniel Brown, and Colin Thompson. On defense, your defensive line is one end is Akeem Hicks, followed by Bilal Nichols, Nick Williams. The other end is Jonathan Bullard, with ahead of Roy Robertson Harris and Kavan Walker and Bunmi Rotimi. And your nose tackle is Eddie Goldman, followed by John Jenkins and Abdullah Anderson. Your inside linebacker starters are Danny Trevathan and Nick Kwiatkowski. The backups are John Timu and Roquan Smith. And third string is Jonathan Anderson and Joel Iwabunwe, that draft pick guy. An outside linebacker, Leonard Floyd and Sam Acho are the starters. Aaron Lynch and Isaiah Irving are the backups. And Kylie Fitz and Kasim Edebali are the third team. The corners, Prince Amukamara and Kyle Fuller are the starters. Bryce Callahan and Marcus Cooper are second string. Cravon LeBlanc, Doran Grant. Third string, Kevin Tolliver and Michael Joseph. Then Sherrick McManus and John Franklin. Finally, your safeties are Eddie Jackson, Adrian Amos. Backups are Deion Bush, DeAndre Hall, and third string, DeAndre Houston Carson and Jonathan Mincy. So there's not a ton of surprise in there. No. I mean, seeing Sherrick McManus that low on there makes you wonder, maybe, he better be aces on special teams again if he wants to make this team. Everyone's in love with Kylie Fitz, but he's pretty low on the depth chart right now, so he's going to have to play well. Adam Shaheen, third on the depth chart. That's a little surprising, and I don't know if that's Deion Sims is looking good, or Adam Shaheen's not looking good. I'm not sure where that that stands right there.
Yeah, I don't know if they're just not on as high on him yet, or they still think he needs more work. I don't know.
And not a ton of surprises on your offensive line. Eric Kush is a guy that they really liked last year and expected a lot of things from him when he was filling in for Kyle Long, but then he got hurt real early. So to see him as listed as the starting left guard, not surprising, especially, James Daniels is a rookie and he's got a little bit of shoulder soreness. Not surprising. It's Eric Kush. I fully expect James Daniels to win that job and Eric Kush to be the super guard backup that can play either spot. But with James Daniels being able to play all three inside spots, I don't know how good that looks for Hronis Grasu.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, I mean, not surprising unless he worked real hard on the offseason.
Yeah, maybe.
He's been real disappointing so far in his career.
Yeah, I mean, I still think people see the potential, but yeah, you're definitely right.
But the wide receivers are what's really impressive to me. I don't know if you've seen, Kevin White has looked good.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about that.
Javon Wims has looked good. Anthony Miller has looked great.
He's looked fantastic. You should see some of the video that people are posting of him.
I mean, it's unreal, and if you watch, it's not bad coverage. It's really good wide receiver play.
Yeah, good hands.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the beginnings of the spring or the preseason games to see how these guys look against another team's defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that's going to have me really watching close attention to in the preseason. The wide receivers are probably the thing that I'm looking forward to most. And I think a lot of people would say the same.
It's nothing surprising in the depth chart, but there's a few interesting names, and you're going to start seeing some turnover of guys, and you're going to see a much younger squad start to, go into, they're going to start being the core of this team.
Yeah, and they're essential to it.
But there's one guy who wasn't listed on that depth chart that I think is still going to shock some people. He was a late pick in last year's draft, is Jordan Morgan.
I don't know much about him, but I know enough about him.
I didn't either. I didn't when before the Bears drafted him. He's out of Kutztown. He's out of a nobody college, and the Bears took him at, he's a Division II player, and the Bears took him in the 5th round. And I was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, I didn't know him.
I didn't either. And when I started watching film on him, the guy just dominated. And I mean, that's the thing, is when you're looking at Division II players, they're not the same caliber as Division I players or NFL players. So you better just absolutely manhandle those. And he really did. And he played really well, had really great practices in the Senior Bowl. And, he was named Division II's Lineman of the Year. And he's a big guy.
He's huge.
6'3", 310. And when they drafted him, I said, this guy is going to take a little bit of work, but they've got a diamond in the rough there. And I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a mystery, red shirt injury. And, he didn't have to play last year at all. I don't remember if they injured reserve or if they put him on the taxi squad, but he's back. He's had a year under his belt of learning. He's got Harry Heastand, who's there to coach him up. I think he makes this roster, and I'm still going to stick by it. I think he's going to be a good player for this team.
Yeah, there's always concern about line depth on the team that's been battling injuries. So if you have a guy like him that can step up and play well, then you want to have that kind of depth.
Yeah, I mean, the thing.
Let's face it, the guards aren't as solid as they were. They're either, Sinton was old and moved on, and Long's health is, it's been struggling the past few years.
Yeah, here's your offensive line or your guards. You've got Cody Whitehair, who keeps getting flip-flop back and forth from center to guard to center to guard, and he needs to be put into one position and stay there. I think he's a very, very good football player. I personally still think he should be a guard and James Daniels should be the center, but whatever.
I agree.
But no matter what, they should stick him in one spot and have him just stick it out there, and he's going to be a better football player for
Absolutely.
it. Kyle Long at times has been great, but just plagued with injuries, and he's coming off 2 serious surgeries.
That's hard to come back
It's
from.
really hard. Eric Kush missed the whole season last year with a serious injury. And James Daniels has had knee issues and is nursing a sore shoulder. I'm not saying any of these guys are going to go down. They might all play great. I'm just saying is that you do have some injury concern, and a guy like Jordan Morgan is going to be real valuable because he's young, he's big, he's strong, he's a dominant guy.
Yeah, I mean, the depth is reassuring. That's what you want. The Bears have lacked depth for so many years. Having depth is a great thing and an unusual thing for the Bears lately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still iffy on all of their tackles, but The interior of the line
all.
the interior of the line is still something I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, I mean, the potential's there, and I think that if Kyle Long is healthy, as long as he plays solid, that's all you could ask for.
And we'll see. I mean, we're just a couple of days away from the first preseason game.
Yep, the Hall of Fame game, so that'll be fun.
I mean, the thing with the Hall of Fame game is it's possible no starters play. It could just all be, the bottom of the roster guys, but it'll still be
probably
football.
What's going to happen.
It'll still be football, and it'll still be exciting to see the Bears suit up.
I agree. I definitely agree.
I think that's all I really wanted to talk about the Bears.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
You want to talk White Sox quickly?
Yeah, why not?
I don't have a ton about White Sox, but there's a few things. There's two players I basically want to talk about.
I have a feeling who.
First one is Carlos Rodon.
Okay.
Carlos Rodon, he just had his third straight start where he went into the eighth inning. And in his 4 starts in July, he's got a 1.88 ERA and 27 strikeouts.
And the walks are down too, aren't they?
Yeah, he's looking really good. And I think we've said it up and down in the show that he's got fantastic stuff.
Oh yeah.
He's got nasty stuff. It's all about his control. And it seems like, and control's an injury. And it seems like he's figuring out both of those, staying healthy and getting better control. And if that's the case, man, the White Sox, that jump starts what their rotation is going to look like, because honestly, going into the season, you had to put a big question mark on, is Rodon going to be part of this rotation in the future? And if not, then you already have questions about Fulmer. You can start saying, all right, well, we've got Kopech, we've got Rodon, who knows what we've got in Giolito, and there's been struggles with Reynaldo Lopez as of late, but you've got so many minor league arms that you can start fielding a pretty solid, you're foreseeing a pretty solid starting rotation, homegrown for the most, they traded for him, but coming from their own system in the next few years. And that's really exciting. And if Carlos Rodon looks good, suddenly he becomes the veteran of the team at 24, 25 years old.
Yeah, it's funny because he's been around longer than most, if not all those guys. He was around longer than James Shields, around longer than Lopez and Kopech were even in the organization. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, everything right now is looking really, really good for him. The command is there. The strikeout stuff is there. It's not fluky looking. It legitimately looks dominant.
Yeah, he's 25.
There you go.
I mean, he's still really young. And if things start coming up, is you look, and if a year or two when the White Sox are great, you're looking at a guy that's still well in the early side of his prime, 27 years old, and the White Sox suddenly look like contenders. That's gotta be really good feeling for not only Rick Hahn and the White Sox brass, but the White Sox fans, is to see this guy that you've just hoped and prayed would finally figure it all out, starting to figure it out. I mean, maybe that gives hope that maybe we shouldn't give up on Carson Fulmer yet.
I still think Rodon is a lot better stuff than Carson Fulmer, but yeah, I definitely get what you're saying. And the other thing is that Lucas Giolito has looked decent lately too. His last start was meh, but he had a string of nice starts, so you can't help but wonder if he's coming around there a little bit. You hope he could kind of keep building on that. So if you could get him coming around and you could get Carlos Rodon keep doing what he's doing, then yeah, you're going to start to look really good here. I mean, it's a huge boost if one of those guys works out.
Yeah, and if you get the Reynaldo Lopez of the first couple months of the season and Michael Kopech, you're expecting from him, then man, and you just have a rotation there.
You know, I still have a feeling that Kopech is going to be a reliever when it's all said and done, but a really dominant one. That's just my opinion.
We'll see. But yeah, that's awesome for the White Sox, and it's been good to watch. I tuned in. I forgot what game it was, but I think Rodon lost, but it wasn't him. It was the bullpen that gave
was
it
that
up.
against
But
the Blue
he looked
Jays
fantastic
yesterday? Because I heard about that.
But I think that the story you're expecting me to talk about, and I'm going to step right into, is former Chicago Cub Eloy Jimenez. What the hell? Why isn't this guy in a major league uniform yet?
Isn't it something with the contract?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is they moved him up, and once he got promoted, he's still batting .383 with a 1.113 OPS after his promotion.
Yeah, because what I thought the deal was it was kind of like the Chris Bryant thing where you get the maximum number of years. I thought I heard that somewhere, but yeah,
I think what I've heard was if he only had to be down in the minors for the first month of the season, they gained it. So unless they're planning to have him sit the whole rest of this season in the minors, and then the first month of next season, that's a long time for this kid. I mean, the only thing I can think of is they want to make sure he's playing every day,
right?
And you want to see, and if you're the White Sox brass, is you want to see what you have with your outfielders right now. I mean, you got to make a decision on Avi Garcia, and so. Are you seeing enough of him to make a decision? Are you showcasing Lurie Garcia enough to trade him? That's the only thing I can think of is why they're not bringing him up. Is the kid Eloy Jimenez needs to be playing in showcasing in the major league level, and the only criticism I can say with Rick Hahn, because he's done a fantastic job. As GM, is his decisions to promote certain people and not others doesn't really seem to have a rhyme or reason.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that the whole thing with Eloy Jimenez is there's no doubt he's ready right now. And whether it's a contract thing or not, I think that maybe since they've been so rushed to do these other prospects earlier that haven't worked out in previous years, they may just be a bit more cautious right now. Because Rick Hahn really did kind of emphasize on being patient. So, maybe that's it. I don't know. But all I could say is based on what he's doing, I think he's ready for the show.
Yeah. Why is Lucas Giolito ready to be in the majors? Why is Reynaldo Lopez ready to be in the majors? Why is Yohan Moncada ready to be in the majors? But Michael Kopech is not, and Eloy Jimenez is not.
I think Kopech has had legit struggles in midseason, so that's probably why. But
so
yeah, I see what you're saying about Eloy.
So has Lucas Giolito.
Yes.
So has Yohan Moncada. Everybody's Eloy Jimenez is going to go through some struggles. Can you think of any player that has played baseball and not gone through struggles? No, I really can't. So is Eloy's going to go through struggles too, but he's just such a dominant hitter that you gotta put him on the majors. And so next season, when you start the season, he's already got some major league experience under his belt and he's ready to go because he's going to be the face of your franchise. I don't care who all these pitchers are. Eloy Jimenez is that face of your franchise.
Yeah, I mean, right now he is. He's probably the guy with the most talent coming up. I'd say no question. If you look at a guy who's got it all, it's him.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all I really want to talk about White Sox. But it's, it's just fascinating. And it's a shame for the fans that have put up with so much garbage with the White Sox losing and trading all their, best known players, and not saying it's not warranted why they did it, but it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow as a fan. Even when you know what's on the other side, it's hard to swallow. And this is a taste of water when you've been parched in the desert, and the White Sox organization is like, no, we're not ready for you to have that drink yet.
Yeah, no, I get the frustration. I mean, if I were in their shoes, if I were a White Sox fan, I'd probably feel the same way.
So yeah, I feel for you, White Sox fans. Once Eloy comes up, you can all go out and buy your jerseys, and I'll be high-fiving you.
There you go.
All right, let's take this home with the Chicago Cubbies. Let's see. What do we want to talk about first?
Well, there are a few things I wanted to address. Obviously, I think the big news right now is the latest pitcher that we got. Wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Go ahead.
So when they made the move to get veteran Cole Hamels, basically what I said was, if you give up little, then I'm for it. Low risk, high reward. Look, Cole Hamels has had a really good career. His numbers this year do not look good. The road splits are far and away better than the home splits, and he's had some rough home games in his last few starts as a Ranger. And that's really kind of blown up his ERA here. I also think that Cole Hamels is a nice guy to have in terms of, veteran leadership, because let's face it, he's been around the bush for a while. We've known who Cole Hamels is for the past decade because he's been really good. He was the World Series MVP in 2008. It was a long time ago, but it just goes to show that he's been doing his thing for quite some time now. So, yeah, the numbers this year have not been particularly great as a whole. Am I expecting him to be what he was in 2007 through even just 2016? 2016, he had a 3.32 ERA in Texas. He was pretty good. Not necessarily. But I could expect him being a solid guy to help you out. And that this is going to help make the Cubs, their decisions in a potential postseason scenario, get a little more interesting. And that's going to help them have a little depth there. Because there are still some factors we don't know are going to be in play. Mainly the healthy Yu Darvish. We don't really know what's going to go on there yet. So getting veteran depth like this for cheap, I had no problem with the move.
So what you weren't sad about giving up Eddie Butler?
No.
Me either.
No.
But here's my thinking on Cole Hamels is they're only picking up a small percentage of his salary.
A very small percentage.
You're giving up next to nothing to get him. And he's a lefty with World Series experience. And, he's not a spring chicken, but he's not ancient either. He's 34.
No.
He's 34. He's still got a couple years left of playing. And you're right. His road splits have been significantly better than his home split. And, he's an insurance policy. Plus he's a lefty. You can never have too many lefty starting pitchers, especially when you're foreseeing you got to play the Dodgers in the playoffs. And I know that they've been better, but against lefties, but they still are not a good lefty, hitting team against lefties. And if you can throw Quintana, Lester, and Cole Hamels against them, that's another good, another good weapon against a really good baseball team.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Let's play a little bit of scenario here. Darvish comes back in August, mid to late August. So now you have a rotation that has Darvish along with Hamels, Quintana, Lester, Hendricks. I would assume that unless Joe goes to the six-man rotation, which he could, Mike Montgomery may stay in there, or they'd put Tyler Chatwood back in, who was moved to the bullpen. If Darvish comes back, let's get your opinion on this. Darvish comes back, do you think they go six-man rotation the rest of the way? Because I think they do.
I think they go six-man rotation. Mike Montgomery goes to the bullpen. Tyler Chatwood starting.
I agree.
And it's funny because even if you look at some of the bad pitching performances, they're winning the games that Tyler Chatwood's pitching.
There's some sort of magical thing in the air where Tyler Chatwood will walk 7 guys, give up 4 or 5 runs, but hey, they get the W in the end. It's kind of crazy.
It's super crazy. And, we all talked about, everybody jumped the gun about Mike Montgomery and his ability to be a starter. And he really came back to the mean hard and has not pitched so well as of late. And we know what his value is in the bullpen, and we know what we know the way that this team burns through the bullpen is. I think that's the right decision, is to do a 6-man rotation and throw Montgomery back in there. He could be, your set man. He could be your long man if somebody doesn't go that many innings. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm totally with you there on that. Now let's play another scenario. Postseason. Darvish is back. You have 5 guys to choose from, because let's face it, neither Chatwood or Montgomery are going to be starting in the postseason. Who's your odd man out?
I don't know. It just depends on what people look like and who they're playing. You got to assume Lester's your number one.
Of course.
What Hendricks are you seeing?
I don't think they'd leave him out of the rotation no matter what. With the way he's pitched in the postseason, I think he's a lock.
And, what's funny is the last game he pitched, was that yesterday, the day before, had a rough start to the game and then settled in and, really looked good.
Yeah, I think that yesterday's game, Sunday's game, if you take away the first inning, that's as good as he's looked all year, maybe outside that one start in San Francisco.
Yeah, but that first inning didn't look good. So what kind of Hendricks are you getting? Quintana has had some starts where he's looked really fantastic. But what Quintana are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that pitches against the Braves or the Diamondbacks? The Diamondbacks are the team that scares me. They just have the Cubs.
They can light you up, and they have lit up Cubs pitching pretty consistently over the years.
And Darvish, we've seen when Darvish looks good. It hasn't been a big sample size, but just think that one game where the curve was just that big looping curve, and you're like, what the hell? He's got filthy stuff. I don't know. And then again, if Cole Hamels gets on a run, this is a guy with World Series experience.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It really comes down to who they're playing and what the pitchers look like closer to that time. It's hard. It's really hard to guess. But if I'm going to have to say it right now in July 30th, I'm going to go conservative and say you're probably going to go 4-man rotation in the playoffs. It's going to be Lester, Hendricks, Quintana, and Darvish.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I think the thing that could get a lot of people on the Hamels bandwagon is the experience and the success he's had in the postseason. But, you're paying Darvish all this money. If he's healthy and he's looking good, then maybe you want that going into the postseason. It's going to, like you said, it's going to be determined by what goes on. I mean, maybe Hamels is really good. Darvish isn't 100% healthy, so Hamels is the guy. It's just going to be a wait and see thing. It's a curious thing to think about, even though we haven't gotten to the bridge of the postseason yet. We still have to get there, but it's obviously something that's going to be on people's mind right off the bat.
Absolutely. But on the flip side of the pitching for the Cubs is the bullpen. Is started the season fantastic, and I think there's a lot of good arms in that Cubs bullpen. They rebuilt it well, but due to injuries and overuse, you've seen some chinks in the armor. But they picked up Chavez, who's been fantastic. Fantastic.
And I think they're going to pick up a few more, and hopefully they'll end up like that. And,
not for nothing is a name that's not being thrown around, but is a possibility to come late in the season. Drew Smyly.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably going to be a bullpen guy, no matter what. Theo pretty much indicated that. I don't think he's going to be starting this year. But hey, he may be a guy worth looking at. He's been throwing off the mound, and if he's healthy and he's ready to pitch, then, the Cubs can maybe put him in a few situations and see how he does. I mean, it was another low-risk, high-reward move. You signed him to a small contract, and they may give him a legit look this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a huge, boost for the Cubs if they could add another arm without having to give up anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Now just getting everybody healthy for the bullpen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Brandon Morrow is your biggest concern right now. Now, I was watching Carl Edwards Jr. last night. He got into a jam and got out of it. Though I saw the fastball was a little slower than it usually was, a tick or two down. I don't know if that means anything, but whenever I see that, I automatically get a little nervous. Maybe it was the radar gun for ESPN. I don't know, but it was something I noticed.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Dropping a tick in mid-season, that could be stiffness. That could be just taking some off, because there's times where guys are going up there expecting a certain mile an hour fastball, and if you just shift up your timing a little bit, it's done on purpose. But I'm not a huge believer in dropping velocity mid-season. That's usually a thing between seasons that's concerning. In the middle of the season, there's usually some sort of explanation.
I mean, that's fair, and hopefully it's nothing. And I mean, he got out of it. He still looks good. It's just, something I noticed.
Anthony Rizzo's on a pretty good hot streak.
The power is back.
The power is back. Does this stay? Does he ride this for a while, or do we start seeing slumping Rizzo again?
He has been so hot and cold all season, but I want to say he's going to find some consistency because he's that good of a player. But the way the season has gone at the same time, I just think we may see some really hot, really cold stretches here. But hey, if the hot stretches are longer than the cold stretches, that's better than nothing.
I think you really need to see a pretty good, consistent, long, hot streak from him. The Cubs can really feed off of that. And I know that they've played well, except for this last series, but I think the Cubs really need to play well for the next couple weeks to pad that lead in the division. And because the Brewers are going to start coming back at some point, and
they're already coming back.
Yeah, and they're winning right now against the Dodgers.
They're set up for a huge inning too.
Yeah, we're recording this on Monday, but you know they're still within real close striking distance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know the Cubs got the Pirates. You know, quick.
Who are red hot right now?
Yeah, and it's a quick series, two games. And then you've got a long series against the Padres, who you've really struggled with. But, you know, you get the Royals, who you should be spanking around because they're terrible. Hopefully. But then you've got 3 against the Nationals and 2 against the Brewers and another 4 against the Pirates. And that's a streak right there that is going to be, you know, a big definer of this season, I think.
The way I see it is, even though the race is close, it may be a little silly sounding, but the Cubs essentially control their own destiny. If they win more games than not, because a lot of them are against Milwaukee and division opponents, then they're going to win the division. It's that simple. That's how I see the situation. They control their own destiny.
I mean, mathematically and, you know, anecdotally, they do. Absolutely. And I still think they're a much better team than the Brewers. And we're right at the cusp of the trade deadline. And I don't see any major help coming to the Brewers in this 11th hour that's going to help them overcome the Cubs. And they might add a couple of, you know, 1 or 2 small pieces, but I don't think they're going to pick up anything major. And I see the Cubs.
Well, it's not going to be DeGrom. And that's our trading DeGrom.
Yeah. So they're not going to get anything that's going to be huge for them. And the Cubs don't need anything huge. They just need, you know, a few tweaks here and there, another bullpen arm, and then, you know, a late inning defensive substitution outfielder. Those are easy to come by. I mean,
very easy.
Hell, there's one right down the street, Larry Garcia.
Yeah, if you use him as a speedy guy, defense, yeah, I'll take that, but nothing else.
No, I mean, that's what the Cubs need him for. So I don't think the Brewers can muster up enough to make a run that's going to scare or, you know, knock the Cubs out of the playoffs.
I want to say I agree. I mostly agree, but the Brewers they've been finding ways to win. It's just they're going to be really tough to fight off. So I'll just wait and see, but my confidence is still on the Cubs. I'll say that.
The Brewers have the second best record in the National League.
I know. Yeah. They find ways to win. They have that fantastic bullpen. The only thing I'd be worried about if I were a Brewers fan is that bullpen's worked hard. We've seen great bullpens like that fizzle out by October. That'd be the only thing I'm worried about.
Yeah. But the last thing I want to talk about is what's going on with Chris Bryant?
I don't know. I'm getting a little more worried about it. There's more and more rumblings that there could be shoulder surgery involved, even though we don't really know yet. But yeah, it's a little more concerning now. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's a little concerning. You know, people have asked him, "Are you coming back this season?" And he's, "Oh yeah, 1,000% coming back." But when? Like, how long is this going to go on? And it's been great because Bote has been playing real well, but you know, there's a very limited substitution for an MVP.
Right. David Bote has been awesome lately. Let's just really emphasize that. He's been awesome. And that is why it's nice to have this depth for you to plug the holes for a little while. But keyword little while. You do not want to have your MVP out for a long period of time. Just like you can fill in the closer role for a little bit, but it's not ideal to have him gone for months.
What do the Cubs do with David Bodie?
Right now, you got to keep him. With the injuries, you got to keep him.
And that sucks is because trade deadline's right here. I think it's with the way he's been playing, you could really capitalize on that and flip him to get some quality players.
Yeah, I know. I mean, his value is really high right now, but I just don't think you could get rid of him right now. The way he's playing, he's too valuable to the team.
Yeah, you can't right now with the health of Chris Bryant. I mean, you need a guy like that in there playing, and you need everybody else to step up. You need the Rizzos to be batting well because until Bryant comes back and Bryant's showing he's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, a little bit of breaking news. I just wanted to share this with you. Mark Feinsand said this. According to a source, the Nationals are making it known to other teams that Bryce Harper is indeed available.
I mean, it makes sense.
It's got to make sense, yeah.
Does it mean they're what are they, third in the division or second?
They're third.
They're third.
They're behind the Phillies and Braves. The thing is, they're like 2 games below 500, but they're like 6 or 7 back, which, isn't right in the thick of the race, but it's really not out of the race. Though I feel like if you look at the trend of where this is going, it's not going anywhere for them.
There's 9 teams ahead of them to go to the playoffs. So they're tied with the Giants, but the Rockies, Diamondbacks, Dodgers. Oh man, I got off of that. So they have the same record as the Giants, percentage wise. Rockies have a better record. Diamondbacks have a better record. Dodgers have a better record. Cardinals have a better record. Pirates have a better record. Brewers have a better record. Cubs have a better record. The Braves have a better record, and the Phillies have a better record. So even though they're right around that 500 mark and can make a run, that's a lot of teams to overcome.
Yes.
That 6-game deficit does not scare me if it's one team ahead of you, because you can make up 6 games pretty quickly. You sweep a series against them and suddenly, boom, right back in it. But 6 games, multiple teams ahead of you, and the wild card is there's a lot of teams ahead of you. That makes it real tough. You're going to lose Bryce Harper in the offseason. If they get wowed with an offer and I'm the Nationals, I wave the white flag and trade him too.
Because look, he's as good as gone from DC. This was, in my eye, the last shot for the Nationals to contend with this core. You might as well start your rebuild now.
Yeah, because you can get a good package for him.
Yeah,
but it just who's gonna pony up for it, and to making it known this late. The Manny Machado thing got done, but it took a long while. And that's like a slow, and to get a good package for a hitter, you can get a package together quick for a pitcher, but to get a package together for a hitter, that takes some time. That takes, a little dance of seduction. You got to get multiple teams in there, and that's how you get it done. And there's just not a lot of time. I would be shocked if Bryce Harper was traded, unless that this has been, maybe not public news, but behind the scenes private news where they had been talking secretly. But I would be real shocked if Bryce Harper got traded.
Yeah, we'll see. If someone's willing to overpay for a rental, they have to be listening.
Is there any other Cub topics you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's one more. Were you watching the game last night, ESPN?
I saw bits and pieces, but I think I know where you're going with it.
I'm going with the whole Alex Rodriguez stuff on Yu Darvish.
Yeah. And Yu Darvish's people really came out swinging in response too.
Joe Madden even said that was not true. So I don't know. I thought it was very odd.
Do you want to give the background to the listeners?
Yeah, so basically, Alex Rodriguez last night on the ESPN broadcast was saying that Yu Darvish, his situation was causing problems in the clubhouse and that it was not a good situation in the clubhouse, that Yu Darvish was, now it's, all him to decide when he's going to pitch again, and that's causing problems in the clubhouse. And people are saying, well, no, he's just telling us when he's feeling okay. And he was saying this as Yu Darvish was on the front step cheering on his team. And people are coming out and saying, I don't know what he's talking about. There's no problems in the clubhouse with this, and we're just trying to get him healthy again. And he's the only one that could tell us if he's healthy or not. So I thought that whole thing was kind of bizarre. Where did he hear this stuff is what I'd love to know.
Yeah, that's the crazy part is where is he hearing it, and how is he the one that's breaking this when there's all kinds of Cubs beat writers and people around the team, and he's the one that's getting this scoop?
Right. Exactly. Like, tell me where you heard this from. I'd love to know. If there was legit clubhouse problems with this, we'd probably hear about it from multiple sources. But we're not. And everyone's denying this. His people, the Cubs, there's seemingly no truth behind this, even though you usually assume there's a little truth behind everything.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I forgot who it was, but somebody posted that they talked to multiple players on the Cowboys and that they all thought it was, the locker room's going to be better with Des Bryant gone. And he responded to the reporter's tweet and said, name the players because he knew it was BS. And that's the thing about, sometimes there's a lot of people out there that tell solid stories and they get the scoops because they have very good sources. And even though they don't name the names of their sources, they're good quality sources. And I'm talking like guys like Adam Schefter, and Buster Olney. But then there's other people that have quote sources and they use that to make up when they want to tell a story, but they don't want to say that that's just their opinion. And so like, well, my sources, and that's crap. And that really muddies the water for people that are good journalists that are getting the scoop, that they don't want to give up their sources because then they'll lose their sources, and as opposed to people that make up their sources.
Right. Exactly. So I'm not really reading into anything that he said on that broadcast. I just still think it was very odd.
More or less odd than the painting he has mounted in his house of him as a centaur.
I try to not think about that. It reminds me of something the one guy from Dodgeball would do. Ben Stiller's character. Whatever. But yeah, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
That's one of my favorite baseball but non-baseball stories ever.
Oh, it's a fantastic movie. Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please make sure you hit us up on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Please hit subscribe. However you are listening to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or the TuneIn app. Please share with it. Try to do this. Share with one friend that you know that likes Chicago sports. Share it with them and see how that makes this podcast grow. Thank you guys so much again for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go Bears.